Hi, online people. Sanity is overrated, in case you were wanting to know. There is stuff on my floor, although less of it now, thanks to a kind soul who vacuumed it, unlike my other class, who just hit each other with the vacuum. Let's see. Camp Tecumseh stuff is due officially tomorrow. The permission slip gets you into a group. The money gets you onto a bus. And then beyond that, you're almost there. We just have to make it through today and tomorrow without anyone attacking each other or throwing popcorn at each other. One of those may be more likely than the other. Did we have anybody who has not done this yet and still wants a chance to go and get points? If not, I'm not going to make you. What? Then let's get to reading about kids and poor choices. Although we're not getting to kids and killing each other yet, so that might be a somewhat good thing, or not. Maybe we can just come to my classes later and we'll see that happen. See, this book scares you? Is it because it has words in it?
Oh. It's just weird.
We haven't even gotten to the really weird stuff yet.
It feels weird.
It's because it's textured on the front, so it has like little... Been a long day. Let's see. So we have the fact that there's a gospel page, audiobooks, and we got to... Let's get to gospel in time. Gospel. We talked about that. We're good to go there. We did the yoga pose, which maybe more of us could do to find our center. And they're also going to talk about, let's see, the other yoga pose, where the lotus position, where the leg goes over the leg.
What?
Like where the one leg comes up and then the other leg comes up onto it. I could do that, but then my knees would never work again. And so they're going to be referring to that one here coming up in a moment too. I have a picture of it which will help you out. Oh, Ed!
We very much did get to the weird stuff.
Well, no, if you think that's weird, we're in for a journey. Let's see, so we covered... It's okay. I know, because it feels weird. I'm with you. I keep petting the outside of it. You're giving me a look.
It is 11 a.m.
And your ability to tell time. You're flexing on kids left and right, Taylin. By the way, I saw a picture of you in second grade yesterday. Kaiser!
How did you see that?
I thought that was a strong segue from one thing to the next. Well, I have this magical thing called 7th period. And they brought in a whole pile of elementary yearbooks. And they held it up and they go, "Do you know Taylin?" And I go, "I do." And they went, "Here." And I went, "That's some hair." And they went, "Yes, it is." And so it was a journey. Hi, welcome to life. We're all gonna make it. Hi, Sam.
Oh, you already answered my question.
About the puffy hair? I don't know.
No.
Second graders versus
Did you see
hairstyles.
the picture for second grade?
I did. That's a solid question to bring up.
Was it actually me?
Well, it wasn't a yearbook, and it did say Taylor Edwards, and it had your eyes and puffy hair. So I don't know. Unless they just faked it with some really good Photoshop. It is my 7th period. They are some special wee little
What
beings.
school was it?
Hoosier Road? I don't know. I didn't pay that. I just looked at the outside. You're giving me a look now again.
I didn't go to Hoosier Road.
I don't know. Maybe it was another Taylin that had your face. Let's see. So we've covered this. We've covered giving me really weird stares. I showed you guys the thingies from here with the thingies. I know. You could fit so many pictures of second graders on it. Oh, that sounds creepy.
Wait a minute.
Was it even me?
Definitely was not you. And then we'll go to advertising on kids' heads, the Channel 1 news, and then we got to the TVs everywhere. We have not gotten to that yet. All right, so we will stay there. Oh yeah, we found out that what happened to Josh's mom, wait no, Josh's dad,
He left.
went out for milk and never came back. Josh's mom
Dead.
went out for cancer and never came back. And then it's, again, cancer makes you guys laugh. There's definitely some issues here.
It's you who make me laugh, not cancer.
Oh, don't encourage him.
Cancer. See? Exactly. Not a me issue. So then we left off on page just after the weirdest part of the book, page 15. Just kidding, it's not the weirdest part. I just like to mess with you.
Page what?
Because there are other classes coming up later that are going to make me strangle them, so I'm trying to get it out of my system now.
You should save it. If I come back tomorrow, we should have popcorn.
Yeah, well that won't be because they no longer get to have food. Page 15, we just got to see a ranty thing about not giving in to commercialism and material girls and stuff like that. Material girl. Apparently I have a new TikTok to make. Chapter, we have no idea because they don't have titles. Joining anything was not my usual thing, by a long shot. It's like that show, Survivor. I read in the paper that 50 million people watched it last night. Talk about a reason not to watch something. I don't know about you, but if 50 million people are doing something, I want to be doing something else. Big time. You guys are familiar with Survivor? That show has been around forever, by the way, because it like predates like big internet, because this guy was doing it back in the 1990s or 2000, and that's when Survivor was first starting out, so it's been around for... My stepfather's girlfriend calls me quirky, but most of the kids in my school would probably just call me weird. I'm used to it, though. It's always been that way. I mean, all right. When you're sitting in second grade in a yearbook with everyone taking a picture of... Sorry, I got distracted. When you're sitting in third grade wearing a paper pyramid on your head to see if the rays of energy will help you concentrate, yeah, you're getting some kids looking at you like you're a cuckoo. The good news was, I never cared. Never came home crying, never worried. Oh gosh, what will the other kids think? Just plain old oblivious. There's something to be said about ignorance being bliss. Footnote? Well, actually not too much, of course, but yeah, something. When my mother was still alive, she used to threaten the principal for more services, extra tutors, more challenging work. He's 7 years old with an 8th grade math level. You're wasting his time making him add 2 plus 2. I'll homeschool him, I swear! Yeah, Mom, sure. Maybe after a handful of Prozac and a lobotomy. Do you guys know what Prozac is? It's an antidepressant drug. Do you know what a lobotomy is?
Brain.
Yeah, it's when they take like a big stick and go in your ear and just jab your brain a bunch of times,
don't
like
do
mix
that
up all the
anymore.
stuff. Yeah, well, not as much. But yeah, it's what they used to use when they think people were crazy. They would give you a lobotomy, and they used to actually like take out a chunk of your skull and then take a stick and then just jab parts of your brain and then put the skull back
Take
on
out
and
your
go,
brain.
you're fixed.
Part
And
of
then
the
you would
brain.
spend your time like drooling and running into walls. They're like, well, you're less violent. They're like, but he drools all the time. Fixed. And that's what a lobotomy is. So it's when they, jab your brain. It's fun. I had one. God rest her soul.
We can tell.
She was calling on Carter.
When you said part of your school, it's actually through the back of your nose, so it's not
It
up here.
depends. They did it different ways.
No problem.
Well, the one for me was on my skull. You can talk about your own one later. But she can sit still about as much as I could. I can picture her homeschooling me now. The two of us spelling vocabulary words as we rolled down the hill behind the cemetery. Whew, she was a character. Loud voice, loud music, loud clothes. So much fun. Until the ovarian cancer. Yeah. Just think you're laughing. Much less fun after that. For most of my life with her, the stimulation level was high. And that's always been a turn on for me. I didn't crawl or walk. One day, I just got up and ran. My very first word, yelled, not spoken, from my car seat as we cruised down the highway was, faster! And once I got hold of numbers, forget about it. There's a home video of me, probably about 2 years old, sitting on one of those jumpy seats in the kitchen. I'm in front of the refrigerator with colored magnetic numbers doing equations. Footnote, I swear to God, this is true, 2 years old. My mother's talking to one of her girlfriends while she's taping me, saying, when most babies want formula, they're not talking about math. But it wasn't just numbers. It was learning in general that excited me. I'd go through phases where I devoured any information about the Civil War, Tibetan Buddhism, alpine mountaineering, and planting a perennial garden. I don't know if you know this, but you can lose a lot of friends talking nonstop about peat moss. You preach it, brother. The usual kid activities like baseball and soccer didn't interest me. I remember having huge fights with my mother while she held open the screen door and forced me to play outside with the neighborhood kids. If you don't go outside and play with Carl and Brian right now, there's no science homework after dinner. Don't even think about taking my biology away. Josh, you get out there and get some fresh air, so help me God, I am bringing those math books back to the library. She'd boot me out the door, kicking and screaming. As the years went by, I still preferred to work on my laptop, in my hammock swing, than to be at the high school Super Bowl. Beth used to call me the Wizard. like I was some overgrown Harry Potter. She thought I just twirled around, wasting time, visiting various dictionary sites to look up words like napiform. It means turnip-shaped, but you know that. And in case you don't know what a turnip is, that was the next picture up there. That's a turnip. So if you call someone napiform, it means that they're kind of
Round.
or a vegetable, lobotomy. And so now if you want to pick a fight with your parents when you go home for dinner and your mom cooks dinner, you're like, Mom, you're looking very napiform today. Thank you. And she's like, thank you, sweetie. And you're like, and then you can walk away giggling until she goes and looks it up and hunts you down. Bowen.
I thought Turnip was the one guy from Octonauts.
Could be. I know it's also in Super Mario Brothers 2, but that's a long way for it's fine. You are not the average 17-year-old, she told me once. But, well, then again, you weren't the average 15 or 12-year-old either. I had to argue with her there. It's very simple, really. I've only wanted one thing my whole life, to contribute, to help make the world a better place. I mean, all right, it sounds amazingly corny, but pushing civilization forward has always been my highest priority. Not with more technology, not with more money, but with more ideas, more meaning. When we studied Darwin last year, his ideas burned off the page. All of us evolving, moving forward, consciously or not, is probably what was in the back of my mind when I moved those plastic numbers across the refrigerator. It's what's on my mind as I type this now. If Larry was a way to delve into life's deeper meaning, count me in. Beth made a list of all the kids in our homeroom and who they had been in a past life. We passed the list back and forth, filling in the blanks. Jack Furtado, Victorian cellist. Laura Newman, Russian cosmonaut, until the bell rang. Out in the hall, my enthusiasm pinned Beth to her locker. You're right! Everything Larry wrote about on his website had something to do with my life. Didn't I tell you? She couldn't have been happier. When I thought about what a consumer glutton my stepfather's girlfriend was, Larry wrote about shopaholics. When I missed my mother, he talked about attachment. It was uncanny. I didn't want to lay it on too thick. Beth's lips shone like hot mocha coffee. He puts into words exactly what we're thinking, she corrected herself immediately. He, well, or she. But what's with the photos, I asked? Are we supposed to guess Larry's identity? Larry has less than 80 possessions. He posts them on his website, a few at a time, daring people to guess who he is. Right now, everyone's clueless. I mean, what can you tell from a pen and a hairbrush? Well, maybe you'll be lucky, and the next clue will be his or her license. She smiled. Beth smiled. I'm sure Larry's saving that one for last. I asked her if she wanted to come over later and talk about my ideas for the club. She frowned. I can't. I have to study for that calculus test. Beth was a lot of things. Gorgeous, smart, determined. She also was a terrible liar. I stared her down. Okay. I promised I'd help my father with inventory. I kept staring. Dang it, Josh! I told Todd I'd help him clean his basement tonight, okay? Could you please explain how someone as committed to personal growth as you are can vacuum the basement of the class cretin just because she thinks she's in love with him? I don't want to hear it, Beth barked back. There's no one more inconsistent than you. You're a computer geek who hikes in the woods for days. You hate to buy things, yet you always go to Bloomingdale's. That's different. But forget it. You made your point. I think I have a picture. You guys know what Bloomingdale's is?
Yeah.
What is it?
It's like a store.
So, big shopping, like usually in the malls and stuff like that. Big place like, I don't know, Sears? Kind of big stores they don't have
No
anymore.
one goes to Sears.
Sears is out and
Last-
filed bankruptcy.
Yeah, I thought so
twice.
too, Mike. I only went to big store at TJ Maxx.
Toys R Us.
Macy's?
I mean,
Macy's. What
Target.
was it? Target?
Kohl's
Sure, works for me.
Still,
But they aren't usually connected to malls. Like Bloomingdale's is usually connected to a mall in some way.
JCPenney used to be, but they're
Right, that's the
dead.
problem. It's hard to
all
find
the
anything.
malls are dead because
She was just gearing up. Look, you're my best friend. We've been bailing each other out since grade school. But not everyone wants to go through life being a hermit, living in the world of ideas. She made quotation marks on her fingers when she said the word ideas. Like it was one of the only things Beth did that drove me out of my mind. She finally got around to sputtering out the truth about Todd. He's the only cool guy who's ever liked me. I know he can act like a jerk, but do you mind if I let his popularity rub off on me for a while? For some reason, the bare bones honesty of her plea only fueled my growing sense of annoyance. I'm out of here. I made those fake quotation marks around the word out, then walked toward lit class. I could feel her behind me, even before she spun me around to face her. I hate fighting with you! Hate it, hate it, hate it! We stood silently for I channel inner teenage girl really well. We stood silently for a few minutes. It's just that Todd has to have the basement cleaned by the weekend, or he can't play. I'm trying to have some school spirit for once. Plus, he knows I'm really good at, organizing things. I wanted to tell her those skills might be put to better use than placing football and basketball trophies in chronological order, but I held my tongue. Instead, I told her I had lots to do, tons to do. I was way too busy to deal with this paltry exchange. I shuffled away as nonchalantly as someone in deep despair could shuffle. My anxiety around Beth could be traced to one thing. I was never included in the endlessly rotating list of guys she had crushes on. Sam, Daniel, Andy, Speedy McDermott, Jack, now Todd, but never ever me. If the choice were a 2-week exciting vacation in Europe with me, or helping Todd clean his basement, yeah, I knew sadly what Beth's choice would be. Next stop in my fun-filled day, guidance with Miss Phillips. I tried to rally myself for the occasion by doing some standing push-ups against my locker. I hadn't even sat down when Miss Phillips got to the point. Have you thought about your major, Josh? Miss Phillips had the terrible habit of pushing her glasses up her nose with her middle finger. She did it so often, everyone in school called her Flip-Off Phillips. I played... Now I'm going to be nervous for those of you who wear glasses every time that their glasses start to slide down. Starts making you go... I played with the zipper in my book bag and realized I was not giving her my full attention. Larry's sermon number 22. I looked her in the eyes. I was thinking about philosophy. The meaning of life, that sort of thing. Well, from the point of view of someone who likes to read and likes to think like you do, that's a good choice. Once you realize the job prospects are pretty slim. I'm thinking after the Depression, after the apocalypse, there'll be lots of positions for people with depth and vision. She crinkled up her nose. Her glasses fell. She flipped me the bird again. Josh, I'm not sure it makes sense to plan a career based on an apocalypse. What if there isn't one? Then I guess I'm screwed. I flashed her a big smile so she couldn't yell at me for the language. I suppose I'm being too materialistic. Studying philosophy at Princeton is a fine and worthy choice. I wasn't sure Miss Phillips's revelation came less from my sales pitch than it did from the fact that it was 10 to 11 and she was dying for a cigarette before her next appointment. I decided to let her off the nicotine hook. I gathered up my things and headed for the door. I've had a soft spot in my heart for Miss Phillips since last year when I spotted her email address in her office and started up a chatty internet conversation with her as a 40-year-old bachelor from Portland. I don't care what anyone says. I was not going through her desk. And by the way, nowadays there is a term for that where you pretend to be someone online that you're not actually that person. Yeah, this was actually before catfishing was a thing and a known thing. But yeah, he catfished his teacher. Not a good thing. See? Not weird at all. Perfectly normal. After months of quiet online flirtation, I invited her to meet me at the Borders coffee shop, only to watch her from the cookbook section. She waited more than 2 hours and 3 cappuccinos before she went home. Okay, that I felt bad about. Miss Phillips was usually tough as nails. I never thought she'd fall that hard. I decided to just skip the rest of the day. The recurring vision of Beth dressed up like Snow White Singing as she swept Todd Terrific's basement was more than I could endure. I grabbed my camera from my locker and opted to check in with my mother instead. When my stepfather visited Mom, he headed for the cemetery. I, who knew her much better than he did, headed for somewhere that captured her spirit more than a pasture full of granite headstones. The makeup counter at Bloomingdale's. And for those of you who are males and might not know what a makeup counter is, it's where you go and in Macy's and you can sit down and they have a whole bunch of example makeups and you can sit there and they'll put the makeup on your face and it's like a little face massage with chemicals.
Yeah.
At least that's what they keep telling me when I sit down. So it works out. Don't be judgy. I slogged through the slush and then grabbed the bus to Chestnut Hill. Ever since we lived in the Boston area, my mother had dragged me here once a month. The waft of perfumes hit me like a surge of memories. I plopped down in the tall seat at the Chanel counter. I think it's safe to say I was the only person in that department sitting in the lotus position. This was the one I was telling you about, where it's, there you go, that thing. Yeah, that would make my kneecaps never work again. Hello, Joshy. How's it going? Marlene, the beauty doctor, has been working here for more than 20 years. With her shiny helmet of dyed black hair and dark eyebrows penciled in for the one she lost years ago, she was Mom's favorite salesperson. It's slow, so you can sit, but if I get a client, you know the drill. I saluted, then leaned back to hang with Mom. My mother bailed on her wealthy parents' expectations as soon as she hit college. Instead of following in their Wall Street footsteps, she hitchhiked cross-country, worked tirelessly for civil rights, and made some bad choices in men. One thing from her Grosse Pointe background, Grosse Pointe is a neighborhood, I think, up in Michigan. That's a lot like Carmel, where it's like one of the richest neighborhoods in the entire state. It's called Grosse Pointe. What she couldn't walk away from, however, was her fondness for upscale moisturizers and creams. She used to spend hours trying to look like she wore no makeup at all. She experimented with pencils and powders like a mad scientist, but I don't know, it always looked the same to me. I can remember perching on this stool as a preschooler, watching Marlene hand Mom tube after tube of lipstick. Mom would ask me which color I preferred, consider my answer, and then buy whichever one she wanted anyway. I waited till Marlene rang someone up at the other end of the counter before I started talking. Okay, Mom, in a nutshell, Beth is cleaning Todd's basement. Peter is dragging me to another lasagna dinner at Catherine's, and I'm nowhere closer to changing the world. So, a quick explanation. What he does, that some people like when your loved one dies, you go to the cemetery to talk to them. He goes to the makeup counter and just sits in a chair and just talks to his mom, and that's where he feels a connection. And it feels kind of weird because you're talking to makeup, but that's his connection. And then he'll then ask a question out loud and to get his mom's answer. It's like a thing that Josh used to do. We'd be like, Mom, should I go out and try to apply to Yale? And then he would listen for the first person to walk by and say something and use that as an answer. And so that was his way of trying to talk to his mom's spirit. Kind of weird, but neat. A woman with a leopard print hat eyed me as she walked by. Okay, I just feel like I'm waiting for life to begin, that I've wasted 17 years. Then what? 4 years at Princeton? How does that help move civilization forward? You want to see our deep pore cleaning mask? Marlene inquired. I nodded. Whenever Marlene's boss circled by, I pretended I was a paying customer. You ask me, you make it too hard on yourself. Stop worrying about civilization. Worry about staying out of trouble and making nice friends. She rubbed the mask onto my face in small circles. I have nice friends. Well, one nice friend. One nice friend is all you need. Marlene watched her boss get on the escalator, then wiped off my mask with a tissue. Here. She gathered up tiny bottles of free samples and put them in a small bag with handles and gave it to me. You come back anytime. I could see Marlene eyeing a potential customer, hovering over the nail polish. I saluted again and left. In the shoe department, I tried on 4 pairs of sneakers, 3 pairs of loafers, and 5 pairs of boots before the salesperson deserted me. I circled by the makeup counter on my way out. Mom? I asked. A 50-ish woman in fishnets turned around and went back to what she was doing. Bell's going to ring in a second. Let me finish these 3 paragraphs. Mom, you'll help me, right? With the whole change the world thing? Then I did what I always did when I needed an answer from my mother. I listened for the very next words someone said. A businessman talking on his cell phone provided her response. Yeah, of course I will! My grin spread ear to ear. When I said, thanks, Mom, the woman in fishnets turned around again. I tipped my woolen hat her way and headed out of the store, like my students leaving a classroom.